clearly my life has been written about by a lot of people, and not all those people are, some of them aren't necessarily as passionate about their jobs as others. So some people can tend to ride with a story, and it's easier for them to look at the last 3 stories written, pick apart what other people say, go on hearsay, or even pick up a tabloid.
You know, when you're early in your career, you feel that you have to listen. And when you buck, they buck harder.
Did 2 of the biggest names in music steal Mariah Carey's career? That's the question we're diving into today, and trust us, it's messier than you think. Picture this, Mariah Carey, the reigning queen of the 90s. She wasn't just another pop star, she was the pop star. She wrote her own songs, produced her own records, and shattered charts like no one else. Mariah wasn't just a singer, she was a cultural phenomenon, the template for what a superstar could be. But then, as the new millennium dawned, everything changed. The glitter era, which was supposed to cement her as an untouchable icon, suddenly became her downfall. And in the shadows of her decline, 2 rising stars emerged, Jennifer Lopez and Beyoncé. Was it just bad timing, or was Mariah pushed out to make way for them?
So basically, my whole thing is I'm a people pleaser. I try to be nice because no matter what, if you're a female, you're successful, you're a bitch, they call you a bitch. And it used to really bother me what people said about me. Now I could care less.
Let's start with the infamous Loverboy scandal. This wasn't just a simple case of bad luck, this was straight up sabotage, if you believe the whispers. Back in the early 2000s, Mariah was working on her Glitter soundtrack and had secured a sample from Yellow Magic Orchestra's 1978 track Firecracker for her song Loverboy. It was fresh, it was unique, and it was going to be the centerpiece of her comeback. But then, out of nowhere, that exact same sample turned up on Jennifer Lopez's song I'm Real. Coincidence? Not if you ask Mariah. She was furious, and she had every right to be. After all, how does a sample you've locked down for months suddenly show up on another artist's album before your own? Mariah didn't hold back when she addressed it. She blamed her ex-husband, Tommy Mottola, the powerful music executive who had been running Sony Music in her life during their tumultuous marriage. According to Mariah, Tommy was determined to punish her for leaving him and leaving the label. In her words, much of what went wrong with Glitter led back to Tommy. He used all his power and connections to punish me. He wasn't going to let me or Glitter shine. And if you think that's dramatic, consider this. Irv Gotti, the producer behind I'm Real, admitted in an interview years later that Tommy himself had orchestrated the whole thing. He said Tommy called him up and told him to give the sample to j.lo to sabotage Mariah. That's not speculation, that's straight from the source.
You know what I mean? But I was put in a position where people looked at me like this princess and probably a really mean, evil person that you had to walk on eggshells around, because that's what the people around me who worked for him, they didn't work for me, really. I mean, I paid half of them, but I think he paid half of them too. The thing is that the image that they put out there was, don't even look at her, don't talk to her, this and that.
What makes it worse is that j.lo knew. She wasn't some innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. She played along, and while Mariah was scrambling to rework her song with a new sample, j.lo was riding high, releasing hit after hit. It's no wonder Mariah couldn't even bring herself to acknowledge j.lo publicly. When asked about her, Mariah famously said, "I don't know her." Those 4 words became legendary, a cultural moment that perfectly encapsulated the shade and tension between these 2 women. But the truth is, Mariah knew exactly who j.lo was and exactly what role she had played in her downfall.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was more surprised than us.
Yeah. No, but it is. No, seriously though. I mean, that's just, would you ever have imagined that it comes full circle, it ends up like this?
No, you never could imagine something like that could happen.
I'm happy.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. I'm happy for you. I'm happy.
You.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any messier, enter Beyoncé. Back in the day, Beyoncé was one of Mariah's biggest fans. She gushed about her in interviews, calling her an inspiration and crediting Vision of Love as the song that made her want to sing. Beyoncé even said that Mariah's ability to pack so many notes into a single bar was what inspired her own vocal runs. But somewhere along the way, that admiration turned into competition. As Beyoncé's star rose, Mariah's seemed to dim. Fans started noticing that Beyoncé no longer spoke about Mariah with the same reverence. The shout-outs stopped, the fangirling faded, and people began to wonder, was Beyoncé distancing herself intentionally? Now, here's where it gets really juicy. There's a theory that Beyoncé's husband, Jay-Z, and Mariah's ex, Tommy Mottola, may have conspired to systematically dismantle Mariah's career. Sounds far-fetched, right? But think about it. Jay-Z was building his empire, Roc Nation, and Beyoncé was transitioning from girl group star to solo icon. They were positioning her as the new queen of music, and Mariah, with her diva reputation and turbulent personal life, didn't fit into that narrative. There are even whispers of a so-called sabotage summit, where the power players of the industry allegedly decided that Mariah's time was up. And if you look at how things played out, it's hard not to wonder if there's some truth to it.
I know so much on how you got where you are, how you stepped on many people.
Take Beyoncé's rise, for example. She didn't just dominate music, she dominated everything. While Mariah was being painted as unstable and difficult, Beyoncé was being hailed as a visionary, a cultural icon who could do no wrong. And let's not forget the media's role in this. They love to pit women against each other, especially women of color. Mariah wasn't just competing with J.Lo and Beyoncé, she was fighting an entire industry that decided her time was over.
Major thing because I'm a very free-spirited person and I had to become a very independent person very early on in life. So when you take somebody and you stifle them like that, it's not going to work forever. Either like I would have completely lost myself.
Something had to give.
Something had to give.
And let's go back to J.Lo for a second, because her rise is just as suspicious. She wasn't a singer, she was a dancer, an actress, someone who could sell an image but couldn't hit a note to save her life. Yet, somehow, she became a global superstar. How? By using vocals that weren't hers. That's right, J.Lo's early hits were built on the backs of other artists. Ashanti, for one, has been very open about how her voice was used on J.Lo's tracks without proper credit. Songs like I'm Real and Ain't It Funny still have Ashanti's background vocals, because J.Lo couldn't deliver the performance herself. And it wasn't just Ashanti. There's a long list of artists, particularly black women, whose work J.Lo profited from without acknowledgement. Mariah saw all of this happening in real time, and she called it out. She didn't mince words when she said, "If I had the luxury of not having to sing my own songs, darling, I'd do that too." That's classic Mariah, sharp, witty, and unbothered. But beneath the shade was real frustration. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting against an industry that seemed determined to erase her contributions and replace her with less talented but more marketable stars. What's even more frustrating is how history has treated Mariah. Despite her record-breaking achievements and undeniable talent, she's often reduced to a caricature, the over-the-top diva who shows up every December to sing All I Want for Christmas Is You. Meanwhile, Beyoncé's remembered as a game-changer, a pioneer, someone who redefined what it means to be a pop star. And J.Lo, she's still out here headlining Super Bowls and selling skincare products, despite decades of accusations about stolen vocals and shady industry deals.
We're all just living in the moment of being positive, and there's like people called haters. No, Cindy. And we give them positivity.
So where does this leave Mariah? Well, word on the street is that she's finally ready to tell her side of the story. Whether it's in a documentary, a memoir, or a no-holds-barred interview, Mariah is reportedly gearing up to spill all the tea. The sabotage, the betrayals, the stolen songs, everything. And honestly, we're here for it. Because if there's one thing Mariah Carey deserves, it's respect. She paved the way for so many artists, and it's about time she gets the credit she's owed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, all we can do is wait and wonder what really happened behind the scenes. Was it just a series of unfortunate events, or was there a calculated effort to push Mariah out of the spotlight? One thing's for sure, when Mariah finally speaks her truth, it's going to shake the industry to its core.
We promise you this is not an April Fool's joke, what you're about to hear. It is an actual lawsuit filed by an attorney in federal court about...
And then there's that photo. The one that resurfaced from the year 2000, taken on the same night as the infamous VMA after-party. Jennifer Lopez and Diddy locked in what appears to be a tense, heated exchange at a nightclub. J.Lo's face is tight with frustration, her sister standing nearby while Diddy leans against the wall, drink in hand, looking equally agitated. To the casual observer, it's just a lover's spat, the kind you'd expect from a high-profile couple under the glare of flashing cameras. But for those who know the story behind that night, it starts to look less like a coincidence and more like a piece of a much larger, darker puzzle. The timing of this confrontation is almost too perfect. This was the very evening when Tommy Mottola allegedly orchestrated the release of J.Lo's I'm Real, undercutting Mariah's already struggling glitter era. What if this argument wasn't about their relationship at all? What if it was about negotiating power, about J.Lo cementing her place in the industry by aligning herself with the right people at the right time? Let's not forget, Diddy was a major player in the music world back then, and his connections alone could open doors that would otherwise remain closed. Add Tommy Mottola to the mix, and suddenly J.Lo had access to the kind of leverage that could propel her past Mariah and into superstardom. The question is, how far was she willing to go to seize that moment?
10 years ago, they say this was a party for Diddy's son, King Combs, but all the names involved here are huge. Huge. Talking Beyoncé, Jay-Z, LeBron James. Now, And all of those people are just witnesses, according to this lawsuit.
Diddy and J.Lo's relationship wasn't just a high-profile romance, it was a strategic alliance that shaped both their careers, albeit in very different ways. At the time, Diddy was one of the most influential figures in music, a producer and mogul whose connections ran deep in both the music and film industries. Being with Diddy gave J.Lo access to an elite circle of power players, allowing her to transition seamlessly from her acting roots into music superstardom. And while their relationship looked glamorous on the surface, red carpets, club appearances, and matching outfits that screamed power couple, it was reportedly turbulent behind the scenes. Many believe J.Lo leveraged this relationship to her advantage, even as things began to unravel. One of the most infamous moments of their time together was the 1999 nightclub shooting, where Diddy and J.Lo were caught up in the chaos. While Diddy faced legal troubles and public backlash, J.Lo managed to come out of the situation relatively unscathed. Some have speculated that this incident marked the beginning of her distancing herself from him. It wasn't just about avoiding negative press, it was about solidifying her own brand, separate from Diddy's increasingly controversial image. And yet, even after their split, Diddy continued to speak highly of her, often hinting at the idea that he had played a pivotal role in her rise to fame. Whether that's true or simply Diddy's ego talking, one thing is certain: their relationship left a lasting impact on both their careers. What's even more intriguing is how J.Lo managed to navigate the fallout of their breakup while maintaining her momentum. Unlike Diddy, whose reputation took a hit after the nightclub scandal, J.Lo used the breakup as an opportunity to redefine herself. She released her second album, JLo, which catapulted her into global superstardom. But was her success purely the result of talent and timing, or did her carefully cultivated connections, including those she made through Diddy, play a bigger role? Some insiders believe that J.Lo had already begun aligning herself with other powerful figures, ensuring that her career wouldn't falter even as her personal life unraveled. These calculated moves might explain why, while Diddy's influence eventually waned, J.Lo's star only continued to rise.
And they make threats, and those threats are huge ones. And you know what I mean? You don't feel like you have a choice.
For Mariah, the fallout from this period was devastating. Her career wasn't just stalled, it was deliberately derailed. And while J.Lo and Beyoncé were rising to the top, Mariah was being painted as a melodramatic, difficult diva. That label diva might seem glamorous to some, but in Hollywood, it's shorthand for unmanageable. It's a stereotype that's been used time and time again to undermine powerful women, particularly women of color. And for Mariah, this narrative didn't just come out of nowhere. It was carefully crafted, perpetuated by media outlets that seemed all too eager to tear her down. But who was feeding these stories? And why? The industry loves its golden girls, and by the early 2000s, Mariah no longer fit the mold. She wasn't the fresh, young ingenue anymore, and her refusal to conform to industry expectations made her a target. Meanwhile, J.Lo and Beyoncé are being positioned as the ultimate replacements. J.Lo with her ability to sell a glamorous image, and Beyoncé with her undeniable talent and carefully curated persona. They were framed as the anti-divas, hardworking, humble, and easy to work with. But was this image real, or was it just another narrative designed to shift the spotlight away from Mariah? There's even speculation that J.Lo and Beyoncé have worked together, or at least benefited from each other's rise to fill the vacuum Mariah's absence created. Think about it, J.Lo's rapid ascent in the early 2000s coincided with Beyoncé's transition from Destiny's Child frontwoman to solo superstar. Both women dominated music, film, and fashion, carving out spaces that Mariah once occupied. Could this have been a coordinated effort? A silent pact between two rising stars to make the most of Mariah's decline? It's impossible to say for sure, but the timing is certainly suspicious. And speaking of Beyoncé, her relationship with Mariah has always been a subject of intrigue. In the beginning, Beyoncé was vocal about her admiration for Mariah, calling her a major influence and crediting her for inspiring her own vocal style. But as Beyoncé's career skyrocketed, that admiration seemed to fade. Fans have pointed out that Beyoncé rarely mentions Mariah anymore, and the two have been noticeably distant in public. Was this a natural shift, or did Beyoncé deliberately distance herself to avoid being associated with a star whose reputation was being dragged through the mud?
No, was it. No, when I get nervous, I tell the truth.
What's even more telling is how the media treated Beyoncé and J.Lo compared to Mariah. While Mariah was portrayed as erratic and overly emotional, Beyoncé and J.Lo were celebrated as professional and poised. It's almost as if the industry decided that Mariah's time was up and actively worked to push her out. And let's not forget the role of powerful men like Tommy Mottola and Jay-Z in shaping this narrative. Tommy had every reason to sabotage Mariah after their messy divorce, and Jay-Z, as Beyoncé's husband and business partner, had a vested interest in ensuring her success. Together, they wielded enormous influence that could make or break a career. But Mariah wasn't entirely silenced. Over the years, she's dropped hints about what really happened behind the scenes. In her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, she didn't just talk about the sabotage, she named names. She called out Tommy Mottola for using his power to block her success and even alluded to the role other artists played in her downfall. And while she didn't go into detail about Beyoncé or j.lo, the subtext was clear: Mariah knows more than she's letting on.
He says that he showed up at this party, or woke up at this party, and didn't understand how he got there, that he's insinuating clearly that he'd been drunk, but woke up and at one point saw Gloria Estefan and Emilio Estefan, and Gloria is saying, hey, we need to get him medical help because he's too...
Get an ambulance, get him out of here.
Which brings us to the present day. Rumors are swirling that Mariah is finally ready to spill everything. Some say she's working on a second memoir, one that will dive even deeper into her experiences in the industry. Others believe she's planning a tell-all documentary complete with receipts that could expose the truth about the sabotage, the stolen songs, and the backroom deals that shaped her career. And if Mariah does decide to speak out, the fallout could be catastrophic. Careers could be ruined, reputations shattered, and the industry's darkest secrets laid bare. But will she do it? That's the million-dollar question. Mariah has always been careful about how much she reveals, and for good reason. Speaking out could come with serious consequences, not just for her, but for the entire industry. Still, the fact that she's even considering it is a testament to her resilience. After everything she's been through, Mariah is still standing, still making music, and still proving that she's one of the greatest artists of all time. So what do you think? If Mariah finally tells her story, will it change the way we view stars like Beyoncé and j.lo? Could it expose the hidden power dynamics that control Hollywood? Or will it backfire, leaving Mariah more isolated than ever? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the truth always has a way of coming out, even in an industry built on secrets. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep questioning everything. See you soon.